All right, now joining us for more on the book is African Hidden Voices Chairperson Nkululeko Mfecane. Good evening, Mr. Mfecane. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. So today was a very important day for Hidden Voices. But before we get to the book and unpacking it, let's start with the commemoration of the Day of Reconciliation. What does this day mean to you?
Good evening, and thank you very much for having us. Greeting to all the fellow Africans out there. Well, the commemoration is a special day in the sense that our understanding of the commemoration is based on the new teaching now of the African indigenous spirituality, which was one of the fundamental elements that were left behind when the whole concept of reconciliation was structured. It's clear from that point of view that when the reconciliation was discussed and structured, they left out this very fundamental element. And today, as they celebrate the reconciliation, we as African Hidden Voices launched a very important book that seeks to address the issues that were left behind. For example, the issue the issue of spirituality was left behind. The issue of our culture being informed by spirituality was left behind. Yes, they speak about culture and traditions, but they leave the very fundamental issue, which is African indigenous spirituality. Therefore, the day for me means the fact that I'm happy to be reintroduced to who am I, being rooted in African indigenous spirituality.
We'll touch a bit more on just the restoration of Africa's spiritual identity as per your book. But this year's theme, at least for the Day of Reconciliation, is healing historical wounds and forging new futures. A very powerful theme. How do you believe, in your view, we can forge this new future?
Indeed, you can forge a new future on the premise of spirituality. Because once we become spiritual and know who we are, all the races, we should be able to mingle with one another. We should be able to respect one another. We should be able to honor each other. You know, this afternoon, the Afrikaners were celebrating their commemoration in Fort Reg and Pretoria. 37,000 of them were there. You know, they were there to celebrate their history, to celebrate their heritage, to celebrate their languages. You know, so fundamentally, if all of us can know who we are, we should be able to easily celebrate one another. We should be easily infuse our cultures and beliefs into our systems, into school systems, into our communities, into our workspaces, because we know who we are. The fact that
and how does that look like? Pardon me for interjecting there. So how does this infusion look like in the practical sense? If you're saying we need to infuse spirituality in the workspace, in our schools, so that it's part of the curriculum, how does it look like in the practical sense?
Well, the buzzword in the few years was the issue of decolonizing education, decolonizing spirituality, decolonizing this and that, you know, and that was fundamental in addressing this issue that was being about, because part of that decolonization stemmed from the fact that it was left behind when the new South Africa was being structured. Now, what decolonizing, we shouldn't be decolonizing. It should have been done in the first place, you know. So unfortunately, because of that, we have to decolonize. And we as African Hidden Voices are actually practicalizing that by producing material that seeks to do just that. You know, because the issues of decolonization, there's no material that supports that. There's no program that are actually put in place to actually do that. So African Hidden Voices is putting together some work, some books, some research that seeks to address just that. So in practical terms, we have to put in some work. We have to do some activities, write some content that speak to us, that speak to our issues, that speak to who we are. And then from there, we should be able to infuse that with other cultures, with other nations. And also with the curriculum, which is very important. There was also a big fight about the students on the decolonization of curriculum, because the current curriculum in universities don't actually address the key issues that affect us as Black people in particular. If you go to university now, they are facing the sketch of spiritual matters. You know, most of them are becoming initiated at a very young age. They are grappling with those issues fundamentally because we haven't really understood who we are. We haven't grasped the fact that what is our core understanding as Africans, which is rooted in African indigenous spirituality. So had we decolonized the curriculum, we should be in the curriculum, have lecturers that are able to address those issues when students are faced with those challenges.
Now, we heard the President today confirming that the national dialogue will take place next year. Do you believe the kind of conversations we're having now around decolonization and infusing perhaps our curriculum with spirituality, African identity, as you say, should be a conversation that's also had at this national dialogue?
It should be held at that national day. Unfortunately, I don't believe the president will invite African indigenous people, African spiritualists, the guides.
No, but it will be open to all thought leaders. That's at least our understanding, that it will be open to all thought leaders and ordinary members of society.
Well, they must issue a formal invite to everyone, because to them, their understanding is different. So African indigenous spirituality is an entity on its own. It's not infused with, the religious sector, the traditional religion. No, it's an entity on its own. But I think we'll take up that invitation. Whoever is dealing with them, we would like to be involved so that we can influence that conference. It's very important that African Indian voices and African spiritualists, the guides, are also part of that conversation.
All right. And then just before we close off, then I suppose you can touch on what exactly is Africa's spiritual identity according to you?
Is to know who you are, where you come from, your roots. Recognize and acknowledge your parents, your great-parents, your great and greats. That's where you come from. That's your lineage. That's what makes you who you are. Without them, you wouldn't be here. That's as simple as that for me.
All right. And I suppose many will go and get the book just to find out exactly what it is in depth. Thank you very much for joining us, Nkululeko, on the show. That was African Hidden Voices Chairperson Nkululeko Mfecane.